I promise you that. I have very strong views on that, but I am going to be, unfortunately, very restrained.
Sorry, boys. I don't know why the intro played. Yo, it's saying people. Welcome in. Sorry we were delayed. These two were going at it. You know what I mean? We're not even started. I was thinking, should I just press the go live button and we could just just start the conversation. But yeah, big up to everyone, man. Make sure you guys are smashing up the like button. Make sure you guys are subscribing to the channel as well if you guys are new. Obviously we got Martin here from Mancunian Way. We got Pete from Loaded Mag, and we got Bevo from City Bevo TV. Let's have a look who's in the building. Built to City Luke, built to Romy, built to Brandon, Nads, Akshit, Itchy Goat, Nabil, Ryan. Who else we got in here? We got Triad, Marshy Boy, built to MCFC 4, Pete, W for this intro. Built to Herbal, James, Sahins, big up to Steve, Canada, G-Man, DS-Ford. Good to see you guys. Make sure you are smashing up the likes. Make sure you guys are subscribing. We're going to have an FFP chat, PSR chat. We'll speak about City's 115 situation. We'll speak about the wider sort of financial fair play sort of structure right now. And I'll get some of the guys' thoughts on what they think should happen with FFP. Should it be scrapped? Have they got any ideas? And as well, of course, because Pete's a Newcastle fan, be pretty interested to see how this is impacting Newcastle as a football club as well, because I'm pretty sure there'll be some similarities there with them and City. But yeah, guys, make sure you are smashing up the like. Make sure you guys are subscribing. Martin, I'm going to start with you, man. The FFP situation, 115, it's very, very long. It's been going on for many, many years. I'm going to start this question off, and then obviously Bevo and Pete, feel free to chip in. Was this inevitable in the sense that when they brought these restrictions in, when they brought these financial fair play rules in, was a massive court case inevitable?
Yeah, 100%. I've always said it was turkeys voting for Christmas. Don't think they ever realised what they were voting for. Because what they don't realise is they voted themselves into a corner. And that's what makes me laugh. They tried to be clever with it, with City. Oh, with Chelsea are here, right? We've got to stop City somehow. Because they could see what's coming down the track. They knew City were going to dominate and absolutely dominate for years. So they wanted to put all this in, hence why the letter went out, which the Daily Mail leaked, from Arsenal, Tottenham, and it was all about one specific club, which was us. And they wanted to go down that road. But I don't think they ever realised what corner they were backing themselves into.
What do you think they were trying to do, bro?
I think they were trying, to put it bluntly, they were trying to stop City at the thing. They were trying to stop it at the pass. All right, you've had a title or two. Let's try and stop it. The trouble is, the train had already left the station and was 3/4 away down the track. It was too late. Because if you go back to our initial, now I'm only going off what I've read, you go back to our initial charges when we got charged under Pellegrini. When you look into it and you read it, it was all about the goalposts were getting moved all the time. So City had originally thought they'd passed FFP or financial regulations at the time, and then they changed one of the rulings or the wording within it, and then City had failed it.
That one under Pellegrini, wasn't that to do with Wilfred Boney?
No, it was just it was just general anyway, where we were spending. And now obviously, because they've not, this is my thing I've always said to you, they've not charged us with the same thing as other people. This is why they've had to go all the way back to 2010, 29, whenever it was. They've had to go all the way back. Because what they're trying to do is go all the way right back to the beginning. But legally, and this is where I think the Premier League will come unstuck, they haven't got a leg to stand on because there was no ruling back then. You can't charge someone with a rule that didn't exist. Now, I don't know where the Premier League are going to go with this. Listen, Lord Panic's not a stupid fella. Do you think Lord Panic's not going to turn around and stop that at the pass and go, well, you just had... It's like the APT case, the ATP cases, that was brought in to kill Newcastle at the pass. So they knew, right, look at Saudi. Because they knew Newcastle, we haven't got a lot of money in it, we haven't got the income, but what we can do is we've got a short-term strategy here we can look at where we go to Saudi. and we loan 1 or 2 players. So they stop that. They close the door there. And it's all about keeping them at the top and pushing them back. None of these anti-competitive crap.
Well, the thing is, the thing is though, City are now the team at the top. So it's like you're now actually like inadvertently protecting City because no one else can spend. Like I'm gonna be real with you. Like from a footballing point of view, like we need Newcastle and Aston Villa to be able to spend money because they're the only 2 teams really that are serious. Because Liverpool aren't serious, United are not serious. Newcastle and Villa are serious. But from a City point of view, I mean, it's great that Newcastle can't spend money because if Newcastle could spend money, they'd be up there challenging for the title within a year, 2, 3 years tops.
It'd be a two-team league. It'd be a two-team league.
But do you not think it's ironic how they brought these rules in to stop City competing, and now actually these rules seem to be protecting City in a way?
Yeah, it's for me. It's all literally it's like egg on their face for starting it in the first place. Because not only is it stopping us, and as a Newcastle fan, frustrating as hell for us, because we're now looking at what was aimed to be a 5-year project in order to be there where we're at the top and we're challenging is now potentially turning into a 10-year. And I think what happened to us in the summer with the PSR having to sell Minte and Anderson, we recoup decent money for them, but they're good players. What happened to us there is almost confirmed it now to the club that this is going to be a longer process. And I think the fans are now realizing it, which is frustrating because when you've got a club, and you'll know it, when you've got a club sitting there with 0 debt and an owner that desperately wants to spend to be up there challenging with the likes of you guys, like that is the frustrating thing. And being told that you can't spend, even though you got the money there and you've got no debt, is absolutely ridiculous. It's a ridiculous situation. But like you said, you're absolutely right. Man City had already bolted the horse before they brought this into play. You were already in a position financially, commercially. That's where we're failing right now. Commercially, we don't generate the money that's able or allows us to spend that big money year upon year upon year. You guys bolted it very, very quickly. You guys got it nailed commercially as well as on the pitch, and you were able to, chop and change your squad very quickly, buy players in that instantly improve your team, and then you're able to get rid of them very quickly when you wanted better players to move yourselves on again. We're not in that position. And look, Martin, we were just chatting before. We weren't arguing, by the way.
That was BS, by the way.
I was just trying to start some beef in the chat.
Even what a hater over there is just chatting a lot of beef.
But Martin, you made a really good point. Is that like Newcastle? We're in a position now where we don't want to sell our best players. We don't want to sell Isaac. We don't want to sell Bruno. We don't want to sell Gordon. We're trying to hold on to these guys. But it's going to come to a point that if things don't change quickly, we are going to have to, in order to keep going. And how in this day and age, in this world, with the owners that we have, the finances available, how have we got to do that? We've now got to consider, and we're going to find out in the next month or two, whether we're getting a brand new stadium or whether we're redeveloping our stadium. And we have to, because we need another way, another opportunity, another gold mine in order to generate revenue. So we have to make these big decisions.
You know why, Pete, though? You know why? Just for I'd say exactly why. Because the red cartel at the top will tell you, like Liverpool, we had to sell Coutinho. Other teams will say we had to sell our top players. So what I get both sides of the argument. I have no problem with Newcastle coming in and challenging. I think you should be allowed any team to come in and challenge. I kind of wonder. My only thing, and listen, I dig at Newcastle. I think Newcastle are trying to do it where they don't have to sell players and they can build at the same time. I don't think any team will ever get to. I think every team will have to sell somebody at some point. But
but they shouldn't be forced. No, but they shouldn't be forced to sell play because of some stupid rules.
No, I agree. No, that's my point. I don't think you should be forced to. But what I'm saying is the way the rules are at the minute, and the rules have been, because on the other side of the coin, Brighton and Hove Albion fan are going to say, well, why did we have to sell Caicedo then for 115 mil?
tell you something that is laughable.
So you got to look at it from both sides. That's my point.
Yeah, but Brighton didn't need to sell Caicedo. They
did. For them to be able to sell,
no, they
LB,
didn't.
for them to be able to buy, you look at the amount they've invested this summer, it's been through the Caicedo money.
Yeah, but bro, they've got loads of money in the bank. They sell all the best players and don't reinvest the money properly.
It's only this summer that they've actually properly reinvested. If you look at all the
that's what I mean. They're reinvesting the Caicedo money back.
They've signed the players for cheap. Like they've kind of found these and dug out these gems and signed them for cheap money, like no more than sort of 10 million for a lot of these players. And it's only really this summer that they've really kind of put their money
exactly back. The Brighton model is a crap model that people say is a good model. Because, look at what Brighton have done. Brighton model is dead. Now, maybe this year they've actually started to spend a bit of money and it's going to change. But they didn't need to sell these players.
Tell you what is laughable, right? I'll tell you what is laughable. Man United in the last 4 years have made a loss of 300 million, right?
Crazy.
They can go out, splash money on Ugarte and Xerxes and all these other players, right? On top of that, getting Sancho and God knows who else, and Spain spending well over the odds on these players. While all means, they've got a 300 million pound loss in the last 4 years. But you've got the likes of City, you've got the likes of Newcastle, who have money in the bank, but they're not allowed to buy anyone. Tell anybody how that's fair. This system is set up and designed for people to lose money but continuously buy players. But if you've got money, you can't do nothing with it. How is that fair?
Fact. I completely agree. And like this is the thing. You know what I mean? Like Newcastle are in no debt. How is it that Newcastle are being told that they can't spend money when they've got no debt, and other clubs? I'm not going to mention the clubs, right? Have debt and can still spend money. It's absolutely ridiculous. And this notion that Newcastle should have to sell a player, is absolutely ridiculous, man. Like this is a club that wants to invest, that wants to build this huge football club. This club that has just been there, stagnated for I don't know how many years, 2 decades, Pete. Done absolutely nothing, basically. 15 years of having this sham owner. In the Sports Direct guy, it's just been stagnating for 2 years. They finally got someone who wants to put the hand in the pocket and invest in the club, and now they're being told that they can't do it for some BS financial rules. I just think it's absolutely ridiculous. And what this will do is this kills the dream. Pete's all right because Pete supports a club that's a big club. If you're a Leeds fan, fine, you still got hope. If you support a club with a large fan base and a large stadium, you're probably all right. But gone are the day, like if you're like a Luton Town fan, bro, you're never ever going to win the Premier League.
No, LB.
Well, it could have done.
No. This is what I mean. It was never happening.
Why not? Why couldn't a Sheikh Mansour bought Luton Town and put?
I understand what you're saying, but see, this is my thing when people go about its anti-competitiveness. Football's never been competitive in that way. It was always the richest at the top won. This goes back all the way to the 50s, LB. Liverpool broke records to get, we're smashing records. We've got into this false narrative that a dream of Fulham could win the league. It's never happened.
Why couldn't they? If they were bought by a rich owner, why couldn't they have done it?
Well, you go through when the Premier League started, since 1992.
Yeah.
There's been, 7 clubs that have won it, 8 clubs?
Right.
So where was the competitiveness?
No. I don't know. No, my point is, why couldn't a mega rich owner buy a small club and make them win the league?
No, I understand that.
That can't happen now. Because now they're saying you've got to get your revenues up. But Luton Town are never going to get the revenues up to 700 million because they've not got the fan base. Newcastle can do it. City can do it. Leeds could do it. They've got the fan base. Luton Town's got a fan base.
You just used Fulham as an example. Was it Al Fayed who took over Fulham when they were like in League 2 or something? Mm-hmm. And then Kevin Keegan took over. They were signing like Louis Saha and they were signing all these players that shot them through the leagues into the Premier League. And that's why they're an established Premier League club now, because an owner was able to come in and invest in the club to be able to get them to that point. But what LB's saying is right. If an owner wants to come in, and let's be honest, an owner with big money, right, would only come in if they can see a vision to the top. Like, I'll be honest with you, PIF would not buy a Premier League club now, in my opinion. because they wouldn't be able to see the vision of being able to go there. They would much rather go to an AC Milan and buy them or somebody else where they can not only win Serie A, they'll be able to compete on the Champions League and spend their money. As you said, Martin, right at the top of the show, when Newcastle's takeover went through, there was a quick Premier League meeting that was put together because of all these angry owners that they're not happy about the fact that Newcastle United had been taken over. Not just the fact they've been taken over, but taken over by PIF. And to appease them, the associated party rules were put in place to appease them, to shut Newcastle United down, because the owners were coming in. And in December, we were going to be announcing our brand new sponsor, that sponsor that Man City have had previously and Chelsea have had previously, that was going to be able to really kick them on. And what it did, it knocked us back. If we'd have been able to get that in earlier, we might have been in a different position, but we wouldn't have been able to. And now everything has to be with a fine-tooth comb put through the Premier League. There is no way a top owner with huge investment would ever look a Premier League club now, certainly not a smaller one like a Fulham or a Palace or whoever, because there's no vision there. There's no vision. It's completely stopped any possibility. Now you can just go through the Premier League seasons where you had the likes of Leeds up there, where you had the likes of Forest up there in the early parts. You had Sheffield Wednesday that had little bursts. You had Ipswich that had these little bursts. And they have these little bursts that nothing was able to be sustained. But then you got some teams that were able to stay. We were one of them. Tottenham were there. Chelsea were there. Other teams that were there and fighting in and around it. You're not, are you ever going to see that again? But probably not unless something massively changes.
No. I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying, I'm not saying kill the dream. But I'm saying there's this belief of let's have this dream. If you look at the cold hard reality of it, it's the way football's always been, sadly. Blackburn won the league because they spent a shit ton of money.
Yeah, but why? Sorry. I think. Sorry, maybe I didn't explain. I'm not saying. Sorry, I'm not talking about the dream of just a club randomly winning it. I'm talking about artificially dreaming in terms of hoping that one day a rich owner buys your football club and then you can just get the money pumped in and you get all the best players and win the league. I'm not talking about some fairy tale story of just like doing a Leicester. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like cold, hard, artificial. That dream has gone. Because like Pete said, if an owner buys a club now, they're not going to buy it because they're going to go, well, I can buy it and put my money in, or I can't put my money in enough to get the revenues up. But if I bought Luton Town, I'm not going to be able to get my revenues up.
Different levels of dreaming. Like Luton's dream is to spend and stay in the Premier League. There's a different level, like you just said, Pete, about Fulham. It was to get to the Premier League. They spent all the money through the leagues. Al Fayed, and they went and got who's the former
Keegan and Sahar and all those. Yeah.
That's their dream. If you get what I mean, that's their dream. And then it was right, we go. But sadly, my point is, the upper echelons of football has always been kind of separated off.
Because of money.
Yeah, that goes all the way back to the 1950s.
Yeah, but no. But I don't disagree with that. The point is now they're now cutting people off from joining that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think
that's not right.
I think there has to be rules in place. Then there's got to be some rules.
Well, that's good because Morganski puts this in now, but the league will be even worse if Newcastle would be able to spend as much as they want. So let's move the conversation on now to what should there be any rules in place? Should teams be able to spend whatever they want? What's your guys' views on what? Because I'll tell you, I'll start off by saying this. I don't think teams should be able to spend £1 billion a transfer window. I don't think teams should be able to spend that much money. The problem that I have is I don't know what the rules should be because it's very difficult. I'm not ashamed to say I don't know what the rules should be. Should it be 200 million quid? Well, what about if a player's worth more than 200 million quid? Are we going to say as a league, we're not going to take the Neymars into this league? We're not going to take the Erling Haalands, the Mbappes into this league. So should it be 300 million? Well, 300 million, you might as well not have one because that's a lot of money. What should the rule be? Should teams be able to spend whatever they want? What have any of you guys got any ideas or what's your thoughts on this? Because for me, I've said this for a while. I think there should be an escrow account. I think the owners should have to put in a year's worth of operating expenditure into a separate account. And if the owner decides one day he's leaving, the club is funded for one full year to meet all its financial obligations. That, I think, protects clubs, which is what they tried telling us this whole FFP was 10 years ago, which was a blatant lie.
Well,
but as for spending, I don't know. So what rules can we put in place then that people would be happy with?
I think you're right. I think they need to put a year's worth of funding into an escrow account. If you look at it, these rules are only damaging clubs. You've got the likes of Newcastle who, after for God knows how long, ended up making the Champions League, and then subsequently off the back of that, they weren't able to keep that momentum up because they were forced into not being able to buy players to continue their growth. They weren't able to. There was talks at one point that they might have had to have sold, the likes of Anthony Gordon and Guimaraes just to sort of keep on level par. So it's not sustainable for clubs that want to grow and want to improve. I think you're right by saying that you need to have an escrow account with a year's worth of funding in. I think that's right. I'd probably even go as far as saying maybe a year and a half.
Well, after everyone's got the year, let's start small, because some of these clubs have like £400 million operating like costs. So let's start small. Let's get everyone to a year, and then once you got to a year, you can then start upping it. You know what I mean? So
and then I think personally it should be based on the amount of money that you bring in as a club. So you look at even the smaller clubs, for example, I don't know, say anyone, Burnley get to, the quarterfinals of the FA Cup, for example. That'll generate revenue for them. I think they should be allowed to spend what they've made. So if you look at, say, City last season, I don't know how much we made last season. Say we made 200 million from trophy wins or whatever. I think we should be allowed to spend 200 million. I think that's only fair.
But then what about if you take over a club though, Bevo, and you've not won anything, but you want to invest into your team to make yourself better? That what you've just said isn't that basically again just protecting City?
Yeah, but that's what we're doing now.
No, because I think there is some kind of rule in place now that when you do take over a club, you are allowed to spend what you want up to a certain point for the first year.
Grace period, yeah.
So you do get a grace period. So if you look at the likes of Chelsea when they took over, I mean, granted, Chelsea haven't changed at all. They're still spending money like it's sweeties or whatever, but they had that period for that first year where they were able to get to the point of where they wanted to be, and then from there on afterwards, they whatever they earn, like they bring in through either shirt sales or any kind of revenue that they bring in, they should be allowed to spend.
I don't agree with that, Bevo. I don't agree with. No, but I'll tell you why I don't agree with that, because that punishes the smaller clubs.
But this is what I'm saying, Albert. You're trying to get a rule in that is happy for everyone to have. You're not going to.
You're never going to get it where every club can spend 200-300 million.
What you want to do is change.
It has to be
no. That's not true, Martin. Because no, it's not true, and I'll tell you why it's not true.
The corner shop should be able to spend what Tesco do.
If you want,
you have to be able to spend into relations.
Why can't he do that? Why can't he do that?
Because you're living in Poppy Fairyland doing that.
If he puts the money in the side pot, if he puts the money in the side account and says, "Listen, I'm going to spend this much money on doing my corner shop up, but don't worry, I'm going to put in a year's worth of expenses in the account. So if one day I turn around and say I'm not doing it anymore, the shop can still run for a year and everyone will be paid for a year." Why can't he do that? Why not?
No, but the thing is they're getting the financial backing within that first year to be able to spend what they want to spend. So, if Fulham decide that they want to get taken over and they want to go and buy, I don't know, Mbappe, then they can do that. That will then obviously improve their chances of winning trophies, for example.
But my point is, Chelsea and City, there was no grace because there was no rules when we went. Yeah. You could do whatever you sodded want. You could spend 800 million if you wanted to go and do it. There was no rule. We've kind of got See, this is what I mean. It depends what you're asking for. The rule is there: 70% of your income. I totally understand what people are. I think people are looking at it from my point of view. We're going a bit A to Z. We've got to have some rules. There are some rules. Are the rules are maybe a bit too strict at the moment? Yes,
A bit.
But there has to
a
be
bit
some
too.
rules.
So
But
what rules could we put in then? What's your suggestion?
Well, like you said, you do the escrow, but you've just said then, but you're still going to have a problem because Luton's escrow is going to be very different to a City or a Newcastle's escrow.
Why is that a problem?
But then you're still killing the dream because New Luton are never going to compete then.
Why?
What do you mean? What do you mean? Why?
If a billionaire owner comes in to take over Luton Town,
but they don't just turn up at a doorstep and go, right, we're buying Luton Town. It doesn't work that way.
No. But when an owner buys Luton Town, right? When a billionaire owner buys Luton Town and says, "I want to spend all this money buying players and improving the team," yeah, the Premier League says, "No problemo." But what we don't want you to do, we don't want you to buy all these players and then just leave the club bust. So what we're going to say is, if you want to pay Mbappe £50 million a year, then you also need to put £50 million a year in an account, yeah, that you can no longer access. So if you decide that you're not paying those wages anymore, the club can go into there and get the money. Why can't they do that, Martin?
And then every season, say for example, you invest further, right, and you've got then a bigger wage bill to supplement every year, you top it up.
That isn't how business. But that isn't how business works.
I think that's what LB is. That what you're referring to?
Yeah, that's it, Pete. That's exactly. And Pete, if the wage bill comes down, you can take some money out of the account. You go to the FA and say, "Our wage bills come down. Here's all the evidence." They say, "Yeah, take some money back because you just need to keep a year in."
That's not how business works. Because you're saying, right, I know you went to the extreme with Mbappe, but say you go, right, we'll put 50 million aside for Mbappe. They're going to need more than an Mbappe. Say they want to buy a Haaland, right? You're going to have to put 50 million aside for Haaland. An owner, also don't forget, it also depends on your owner, because the Liverpool owner, the United owner are after making money. They're not going to make money playing that game. So you'll end up with no owners coming in, because some do want to make money. Some do want to make a little bit of money out of this.
But what's the problem? Yeah, but what's the why? We don't want the owners in the game anyway. So good riddance.
No, but what owners in the game?
We don't want owners in the game that want to make money. We want owners in the game that are going to invest in the football club, invest in infrastructure, and make stadiums better, make the match day experience better.
Yeah.
We want owners that are actually going to buy players and actually want to win, rather than pretend like they want to win but never actually buy anyone.
I get that. I'm looking at it from the business side, and got to look at it from both sides. We're looking at it from a fan side only. Got to look at it from the business side as well.
I'd argue though, Martin, my side is good for business because my side allows you to invest, speculate, to accumulate. My thing says, right, if you want to spend money because you want to win. By winning brings in sponsors, brings in the revenue. So my thing actually allows you to grow. Newcastle's growth in terms of revenues will be slowed because they can't buy players properly. Hence, they can't be as successful as they maybe could have been in the past. And therefore, their revenue growth is going to be slower than it otherwise would have been. So business-wise, my idea would be better for Newcastle than it is currently anyway.
It also depends what they're coming in for. Like Pete said earlier on, an owner's not going to come in now because, like you said, you had the 5-10 year plan. Some businessmen don't want to wait 10 years. They don't want to wait 5 years. So this is why you've got to suppose get the right owner in with the right intentions. And the trouble, do you think these billionaires have become billionaires because they're all sweetnesses light and they haven't stepped on heads on the way up to the top? People become billionaires because they make the tough decisions and they know how they will get rid, because it is about the bottom line. I know that's helpful to say, but that's why the billionaires.
Just to expand on my point from before as well, because I've just seen sort of a few people in the chat. It's not about me wanting to keep FFP. It's not, because what I'm saying is the way that FFP is at the moment, whatever that you have earned, and then after that gets deducted, obviously through money to run the club, etc. Whereas with having that escrow account, that is essentially covered. So what I'm saying is if you're Luton Town, for example, any money that you make from television sponsorships, from games. So, even the smaller clubs, when they, play on telly and it's from shirt sales and literally everything, they'll probably be making what? Even Luton Town's probably making the best part of maybe 40, 50 million minimum for a year. They should be allowed to then go and spend that 40, 50 million, because you don't have to worry about the money going back into the club, because that money is then covered. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying keep FFP, because, if you look at City, for example, we made that 700 million in the year that we did the treble, but then you have to then account for things like, obviously paying players, paying staff, paying for everything within the infrastructure of the club. So that 700 million isn't 700 million. It's more like 300 million by the time you paid everything off. What I'm saying is they should be then allowed to spend that 700 million, because that money is already safe in an escrow account. That's where I was trying to go with it.
All right, Pete. What was you gonna say?
No, I was gonna add, like, I've already said ours is now looking like a sort of a 10-year plan. But Paul Mitchell's come in as sporting director, and he's already outlaid another 5-year plan on top of the 3 years that we've already had. So it's going to be looking like another sort of 5 years on top to build to where we want to get to. And we've had to kind of change the goalpost because of where we're at. But I do think if you, and this is not going to be beneficial to all. I know, LB, you kind of use Luton's and your Fulhams and a few as an example. But if you have a Newcastle United and an Aston Villa that have got zero debt and they've got owners that are willing to put money in, they should be allowed to put money in. Now, there should be a cap as well, because as you've mentioned, spending £1 billion in a window or two like Chelsea have done, like, it's ridiculous. It should never have happened, should never happen again. Mm-hmm. I don't see an issue with having a relative net spend over one particular window. So you for a January you might get a certain budget, for a summer you might get a certain budget in, and if you're selling a player for significant money, then you get that money else, like, on top of that, to be able to spend. I've not got an issue on that, because then you've got money going out and being generated back into the club because you're selling on a player, but also you're able to then invest and go the other way. But there should be a cap on it. And I think if there's a cap on it, what it would then do, it would naturally change the value on players as well, because you're not going to get these stupid, crazy values on players like we've seen since the Neymar deal. The Neymar deal changed the game of transfers completely. It completely changed everything in how we value our players. And now players are valued at way crazy prices that they would never, ever have gone for. Declan Rice is an example of that. He would have never gone. Casado was another one. Just never have gone for over 100 million, but that's where we are right now. So I do think having that cap, having a net cap on there as well, will genuinely bring the value down on players and how much players are valued at in terms of being able to trade more sufficiently, and players will be able to move freely, and clubs, more importantly, will be able to sign players. So for me, that's how it should be. And I might be biased as a Newcastle fan because I want my club to invest, but I want us to invest because I know we've got the money there. We're not a club that are spending money that's not available to us. We're not a club that's 600 million in debt like some of the clubs, right? And they're still trying to invest on £200 a summer. It's £200 million a summer, and they might have the commercial values and the money coming in, and that's great. But when you've got £600 million in debt, there should be a question asked to say, right, hold on a second, right? Sort your debt out first before you start spending crazy money on investing into your team. That should have been a priority. And so for me, I get frustrated when I see clubs doing that, knowing that we're not in that position, but we're not allowed to.
Yeah, but Pete, the thing is, what happened is these people that brought in these rules, they gaslighted us, for over a decade, try to tell us that it's about protecting the clubs. We've got to protect the clubs from going bust, when we all knew deep down this wasn't about that. It was about keeping the top clubs at the top. And now you're seeing the truth. The truth has come out over a decade later because they can't hide it no more. They can't hide it no more.
Why can't they hide it, LB? They can't hide it because they're being screwed over with it now. Look at what come out. We've just talked about it. What's come out about Man United today? Bevo's just talked about it earlier. Now they're being stung by the rules that they effectively enforced at the time to stop you guys. And now, all of a sudden, they want to change it up. Gary Neville is a perfect example of that. He's banging the drum for Newcastle, and Newcastle United fans are going, yeah, Gary Neville banging the drum. Not being funny, he was the one bigging up Mike Ashley before we sold the club. But eventually, we were happy for him to stay.
People, why are these clubs now being screwed over? It's because they've lost control of the league.
Yeah.
They've lost control of the league. These FFP rules were great when it was the Big Four. Remember when it was the Big Four? Yeah. Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, and Man United. When them 4 teams got Champions League every year, it was great. The owners loved it. They got the Champions League revenues. And actually, there was probably around 8 years too slow to bring in these rules. If they would have brought these rules in, maybe 2006, 2007, when it was like the Big Four and they were just constantly getting a Champions League, no one would have ever broke in because they would have kept on getting the Champions League revenues. They kept on getting top 4 and no one could have done it. What happened is they brought it in too late. City broke into the top 4. Yeah, some horrendous decisions from Man United in terms of managerial appointments meant that they ended up dropping out the Champions League a couple of times. Arsenal turned into a banter club and they dropped out the top 4. And what's happened is that basically lost control of that Champions League revenue. And without the Champions League revenue, it affects them as well, the FFP, and it never would have done. Do you know what I mean? And now obviously Newcastle are trying to get back in there. And now all of a sudden, it's just what frustrates me. Yeah, is that now that these clubs are getting impacted by it, everyone wants to change the rules. Why didn't no one want to change the rules 10 years ago, 8 years ago? Do you know what I mean? It's all people just want to do it now because United are now getting FFP breaches with UEFA and that. Do you get me? And that's why it's frustrating, Pete. Because listen, Gary Neville's now saying change the rules. We need to change. We need to allow teams to spend. Great. Why weren't you louder with this 10 years ago? We'd never been in this mess. If you would have just put in some proper rules.
I think I'm trying to look at it from both sides, though. Because I can only speak to Pete. You're on his ear. I think there's a little bit of impatience from Newcastle fans, and I know plenty of Newcastle fans have agreed with that. There's a little bit of impatience there.
I don't agree with that.
How long are they meant to be patient for, Martin? When did they get bored?
I think we've been incredibly.
One sec. Hang on a minute. How long did it take City to win a league?
4 years?
4 or 5 years.
Yeah. 40, we got
40, and there was no rules.
Right. We're not expecting to win the league at this stage. We're not, and we never were. The first year or two, we were just happy, and I'm being deadly seriously. We were just happy to not be in a relegation battle. We were not. We got Champions League, and we were loving the ride. I think we all
relegation fight. I don't know who you were in a fight with at the time. Yeah. But was it fair on the other relegation teams that you went and spent, over 150 million in the January?
Yeah, it was. Because we
were only looking after our own at the time. There's
a reason for it. We were allowed to spend because we were 200 million in the plus because we'd invested nothing. We'd invested.
I agree. Yeah,
Mike Ashley. So we were 200 million in the plus, and we had to. We signed.
Pete, I'm not saying
because we.
You misunderstand. You misunderstand. The point I'm trying to say from fans will go with whatever suits their narratives. They'll go with what suits what helps them. That's just football fanism.
Yeah, but Martin, here's the problem. Here's the problem with what you just said, right? You said you think some Newcastle fans are not being patient enough. They got Champions League last year, right? They was in the Champions League.
I've been on many Newcastle channels and they've said
no. Let me finish. So they got Champions League last year, right? This year they spent 68 million euros. How is that fair? How is that allowed? Why can't they spend more than that?
No, I'm not. Yes, I'm saying there should be a rule, but you got to look at it from both sides of the argument.
What is the other side? What's the other side?
So when Newcastle got taken over, they were in what was it? Second bottom, third bottom?
We were bottom.
Yeah. They went and spent 150, 160 mil or whatever.
No, 100 million the first window.
No one else around there could do that.
Well, that's just the way.
LB.
You're not getting the point.
We only spent 25 million euros in the summer. We got Gundogan and Savinho.
Martin, well, the thing is,
that's making is whoever suits, you're never gonna please everyone. We're trying to find a rule that pleases everyone. It's never happening.
I'm not trying to find a rule that's pleasing everyone.
You are. It's never
No, I'm
happening.
not. No, I'm not. I'd scrap the whole
I'm
thing.
definitely not, Martin. I'm definitely
I'd
not.
scrap the whole thing. My point is, it's not Newcastle's problem that another club decides not to spend money. I've said I don't think you should be able to spend.
Then it's just a 2-team league.
No, bro. I've said I don't think you should be able to spend £1 billion a transfer window. I have a problem in determining what figure you should be able to spend, because whatever figure you come up with, it's going to be an issue. But to say, oh, well, it's not fair on the other teams that Newcastle spent 100 million and they didn't. That's just the way the world works.
Was it fair on Villa that they had to sell to?
Was it fair? Was it fair that we got bought in 2008 by the Sheikh and they didn't buy someone else?
No, that's just luck.
That's the point I'm making.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is look at Villa. They had to sell 2 of their best players in the summer. Was that fair?
No.
But no one ever talks about Villa.
We spoke about Villa before.
They do. We've talked about it all summer. The fact that they had to sell
Newcastle, but people only ever use Newcastle as the example.
Because Newcastle are here and now.
Loads of other clubs that are in the same predicament.
Because the reason we speak about Newcastle, Martin. The reason we speak about Newcastle is because Newcastle is the obvious talking point, because they're the richest club in the world and they can't spend any money.
We have the money to go to effectively we have the money to effectively go toe to toe with you. Villa have an owner that's got a lot of money, but
he's a billionaire.
Yeah, but nowhere near our amounts. But he's willing to put money into the club, so we should be. And look, and to be fair, LB touched on Villa at the beginning. I've touched on Villa at the beginning. They are definitely part of that conversation. And every time I talk about it, I do mention Villa as part of that conversation because they deserve to be. They're in Champions League this season, as we were last season. So they're in that conversation. And as well, the owner is still willing to invest. But you're right, that we talked about it. They had to get rid of Douglas Luiz. We've done well, and this is what a lot of Newcastle fans are saying. We've done well to not sell our best players. We've had to lose 2 of one of our academy projects that was coming through and would end up being a good player. There's no doubt he will be in Elliot Anderson. And we've sold a top young right winger who's probably going to go from strength to strength at Brighton. We've had to sacrifice those to save some of our top players. You know, Aston Villa have had to do the same as well. And look, as I've said to you boys, I think at some point next season, if things don't change, we will have to sacrifice one of those top players, regardless of where we finish in the Premier League. And I think that's the issue, is that shouldn't have to happen. It shouldn't have to or need to happen. A team like Newcastle that are building up to potentially fight with you one day shouldn't have to be losing their players on the way when they've got the money to invest.
Agreed.
And we've got 0 debt and we've got the money to invest and we're ready to invest. That shouldn't be allowed to happen. If we've got a load of debt and we've invested loads of money, we've got bags and bags of debt, I understand it. Supplement that by selling one of your best players and then continue on. We're not in that position. Neither are Villa, and none of us should have been able to or should have had to do that. That's our issue, and that's my frustration.
I agree, Pete. That's my point. My point is, though, there are other clubs. You only ever, and I get it. It is about Newcastle because it feels that way, but people only generally talk about Newcastle
because we've got the money.
Because they've got the money.
We've got the money to go
on. Whole bigger issue.
Everyone
It's a bigger issue than just Newcastle.
Well, everyone thought that, you know, Man City coming in now with all this money, and I think this is part of the reason why the Premier League waited so long to put these rules in place, is because at that time when you first come in, they saw the spending as great. The media loved it, the Premier League loved it, a new team pushing up there, and then all of a sudden, it started to overshadow some of the big clubs. And you started winning trophies. And all of a sudden, you started winning multiple trophies over multiple seasons. And I don't think the Premier League or those big clubs expected it to last as long as it did. And they went, hold on, year 7, year 8, as you mentioned, LB, they've gone, hold on, no, this is going to get worse and worse. You guys are building a monster there. And they've tried to put a stop on it. And it's happened too late. That was part of the problem. Whereas Newcastle United, we're in the same position. We're in the same position as you were. We've got the money, not just to last for 2 or 3 years. We're here. We've got enough money to last for 10 years, 12 years, 15, maybe longer, and to be that sustainable challenger for Man City. That's why they talk about Newcastle more than anybody else. Because, like you said, Villa have got an owner with money willing to spend, but his whole worth is nowhere near Newcastle United. So that's why they're
He's
always
not
in
gonna
the
put the whole
conversation.
You know
word
the
in,
biggest
Pete.
thing, Pete, as
Sorry,
well.
I'm not going to play his whole word thing.
Do you know the
He's got
biggest
other
thing as well,
things.
Pete? Right. The biggest thing that we did was investing in our academy so early, like very, very early into the project. Because if you look now, since Pep, this is just since Pep has come into play. Since Pep has been the manager of City, we've made over $500 million just from selling academy players.
Mm.
Now, that is 100% straight profit. If you can build up an academy, then I think that's the reason why now we're in the position that we're in. Because if we hadn't have got our academy to that level, we wouldn't have been able to buy the players that we've now got, I don't believe. Because building up that academy early and making that 100% profit in revenue from academy has allowed us to then go on and, you know, everyone talks like City spends stupid money every season. We don't. We actually spend quite little in comparison to, you know, some of the other clubs. But what I would say is a lot of that money is getting recuperated from the sales of academy players. Mm-hmm. So if I was to give any advice to any team that's looking to sort of break into the top four, invest in your academy as much as you possibly can.
That's very, very good advice. The problem is with that, Bevo, is that's at least what 15 years you got to wait, because first of all you got to build the damn thing. That's going to take a couple of years. Then you've got to get everyone in for and through it.
So
and
you
you're
have
not
to do that, LB.
No, you have to do it. I'm not saying it's the wrong strategy.
I know what this is my point. Why people? This is my whole point, and I'm getting cut for it for some weird reason. Why should Newcastle be allowed to fast track 10 years?
No one's saying you have to fast track. I think they should have to invest. I'll let you answer it. Sorry, Pete.
No, I was saying what Bevo's just said, absolutely right, and real Tommy has put the same thing. Is that, you know, we do have to invest in our academy. Our academy has failed us for years. We haven't had the type of players that come through that we could have, which is why it was so frustrating as a fan to lose Elliot Anderson, because he was a genuine one that came out of the academy. But what we've been doing the last year or so is, and it's not necessarily the Man City model that we're seeing, where you're churning through a lot of local talent as well. We've at this moment in time took over sort of more of a sort of a Chelsea model. So we're going around the country, London, or whether it's Yorkshire or Northwest, and we're picking off some of the top young players that are just at that point where they would sign a professional contract with their current club or move on, and we're picking those players off, and we're having to build our academy that way to be able to build them through to potentially be in the next.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm just saying,
and that's what I'm just saying that's what we're currently having to do.
That takes time.
Yeah. Oh no, Will. I'm not expecting that will take years for some of those to go through. Yeah, exactly.
To get to a self-sustained model. That's my point. And I'm getting all this thing. What I'm trying to say is you said about it may take Newcastle 10 years, 15 years. I'm not saying they won't get there. It's just got to be patient.
For a sustained,
you've had to sell sell the golden chariots out the door, Cole Palmer, etc. We've had to sell everyone.
But that's the thing, Martin. I think this is what I said right at the top, is that this summer, obviously we fell out of the Champions League. We had massive injuries last season. We've talked about that before. But this summer, we were told by our CEO that we were going to have a transformative summer. So that's why Newcastle fans were excited about what we were going to have. What it's turned out to be is that we've lost two young players, one from the academy, one that we brought for like 9 million, sold them off for 30. And they were expected to be the next big thing to come through. And then we've not gone and signed anybody. And we're going, what? Oh, okay. this is where we're at now. And now, at this point, Newcastle United fans are readjusting their expectations. And that's what a lot of fans are doing right now. Whereas going back to May, Darren Eales, our CEO, told us something different, and that's where the confusion is for Newcastle United fans. So I understand that some Newcastle United fans are being really frustrated about this, but I understand it because we've been told one thing and then other things happen. So there's a confusion there. But I don't think Newcastle United fans are being impatient about our rise and where we expect to be in terms of title challenge or anything like that. I don't think we are at all, and I think the readjustment has now set us onto a 10-year plan to be sustainably challenging. We might have a season where we have a great season and we go up there and we challenge the top 3. We might. But in terms of doing that consistently, it will be a 10-year project. From when we first got taken over until now, so we're probably talking 2031, maybe. It's going to take that 10-year process for us to get there. And so I do think Newcastle United have been patient. You will get some fans in the fan base that are like, I want it now. I get that. Every fan base has it. But I think we have been patient with it. But I do think that there's an element of what we've had, what we were promised, and what we kind of expected are all very, very different.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. Listen, I think everyone is going to go down this academy route because you have to, like Bevel said. But at the same time, Newcastle should be able to invest alongside that. And, let's be honest, right? Newcastle are probably going to have to sell Isak or Bruno in the next year or two. And the reason they're going to have to probably sell them is either FFP or indirectly FFP, because the players want to compete for Champions Leagues and Premier League because those players are world class, and Newcastle are not at that level because they've been restricted in who they've been able to buy. So I just think that the whole thing is just massively not fair. Like, Newcastle have got a gem player in Isak. Yeah, I think he's the second best striker in the league, maybe in the world. And they're probably going to have to sell him next year or the year after because they're not going to be able to invest and match his ambition. He's only, he only played football for a short period of time. Isak can't sit here and be like, well, I'll wait 10 years for Newcastle to get this academy up and running so then they can sell players, so then they can buy players that's completely wrong. Meanwhile, legacy clubs at the top have already got the revenues and can just go, oh, we'll take you then, mate. You know what I mean? Because we've already got them. I just think that is massively unfair. Every team is at different cycles, right? And some clubs, who done really, really well when all the Premier League money came in, won trophies, won Premier Leagues, got a big fan base, grew the revenues. Why is it fair for them just to be able to go and take Isak because they were good, for a sustained period of time when the Premier League money come in, and Newcastle weren't good for a sustained period of time? I think that's unfair. That's the point that I've got to make. Like, let me play this clip. Hopefully, I don't get copyrighted because City are a bit weird sometimes with the copyright. But I'll play it anyway.
I think the Premier League got to where it is today by being the most competitive league. So I hope there's a bit more sensibility in regulating. Always a balanced approach is good from all the leagues, be it in England or the rest of Europe. I think you won't see the same level as we've seen in the past years because of the level of regulations that have come to place over the last 12 months.
That's Khaldoon, City's chairman, saying we need to deregulate, basically. Teams can't invest. And again, I go back to what we said at the start of the show, boys. FFP right now is great for City because it stops everyone else from spending money. It stops, stops Newcastle from spending money. It stops Aston Villa. It keeps us at the top of the table. But, I don't want to come across as like some moral guy, but that's not right for football. City should have challenges every year. We've got no challenges, man. Because let's be honest, Arsenal and Liverpool are not serious football clubs. They don't want to spend money. Yeah, Liverpool have just got a brand new manager and they bought Chiesa, who's always injured, and bought a goalkeeper that they loaned out. They are not a serious football club, yeah? Arsenal, terrible transfer window, said it for ages, awful, really no ambition. So City are literally here going, no one else wants to win this league. Well, there are a couple of teams that want to win this league. Newcastle want to win this league. Yeah, Aston Villa want to win this league, but they're not being able to. And that's my point, is that I don't think it's right, that we've got a couple of teams in this league that actually want to win this Premier League and properly compete with City, and they're being told that they can't do it. And by the way, this isn't about me saying you just want the rules gone so you can spend more money. I don't think my club would spend all that money. You know what I mean? I don't think they would. You know what I mean? You think they couldn't spend money this summer?
You're just
Exactly.
proving it. We haven't really spent anything, and
25
you don't need to now, because to be honest, the fact that Arsenal haven't spent, the fact that Liverpool haven't spent, your two closest challengers have actually played into your hands. They've not invested in their team to massively improve it. So you haven't needed to go toe to toe with them and get another big signing in to go to kind of prove it. Me and Martin talked about it on the summer about getting Bruno Guimaraes. You're the only club that I would have gone, yeah, you know what, fair play if he'd have gone to you, because he's trading up massively by going to your club. But you didn't even need him in the end. You went and got the old boy back to come and do the job on what was it,
Exactly.
a free transfer? Like, you're absolutely set, and you've arguably had a better window than they have, and you barely spent a penny. But the point that you've made, I think, is a good one, and I think, from an entertainment point of view, from an excitement point of view, there'd be no better feeling than having a 2, 3, 4 horse race where you've got 2 or 3, 4 teams fighting for the league, and there's a genuine chance that any one of them, and I'm not talking about my own club in that conversation, I'd love to be in that conversation, but you've got 3 or 4 teams that could genuinely win the title, and they're all fighting out like tooth and nail for it. There's no better feeling to have that level of excitement in it, because unlike maybe other leagues, we have the clubs and the finances to actually make that happen, and to regulate this time and time again and make it tighter and tighter and tighter is ruining that opportunity. And the thing about it is, we're the biggest league in the world, so people say. We could be even bigger. We could be watched even more so. We could generate even more money from having an entertaining league that provides everyone with an opportunity to be successful. So, I think your owner is absolutely spot on.
It's absolutely killing the league. You're having the same 3 teams that come up, go back down the year after, and then you have a different set of 3 teams that come up, and then they go back down the year after. You're pretty much guaranteed before the start of the season who's going to finish top 4, or at least in the top 2 or 3, and everything else in between you could probably get anyway. There's no.
Oh, has he gone on yours, guys?
Yeah.
Oh, Bevo, I don't know if you can hear us, man, but you've gone on ours. Let's see what else he said. Oh, sorry, go on, Pete. I was
going to say just really quickly, because I've just managed to catch up with the chat, because I wasn't tracking it. Like, this has been a really good conversation and debate, and this is what it's all about. This is why we like to have these conversations. But some of the disrespect for Martin in the chat.
Yeah, I did put a message in the chat.
I don't agree with it. People can disagree. We all disagree. I'm sure we've all disagreed at some point on the panel, but let's not do that.
Yeah, I did put the message in the chat. You need to chill, innit? You know what I mean? You do need to chill. Let me play.
It's fine. People can disagree with me all day. People haven't understood what I've said. I'm not saying. My point is you got to have. There's going to be no rule that suits everyone. You're never going to make everyone happy.
Agreed.
This is the problem. You end up, because Newcastle then get it, Villa will then want it. Then you're going to get Fulham will then want it. And you're just never going to get it. This is the problem. I think the thing is, yes, the rules are too strict. 100% agree with that. You need to change it somehow. I don't know how you do it. I think the Premier League have backed themselves into such a damn corner. It's quite scary.
It's killing English football.
What they've done. But the trouble is, my point is because I go on Newcastle shows. Pete knows I do. I'm regularly going on.
You ain't been on my show yet. Come on, man.
No, you not ask me. No, but
yeah, because
he's not going to ask you after tonight.
You want to be on social, man. Come on, we'll get you on, man.
No, but my point is, and I know there are loads of fans, Pete, who are so they want the league tomorrow. They want Champions League now. And I said something to Pete. I think it was on Mo's show. That getting that Champions League so early was a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
Because it gave everyone that taste of, right, this is where we can go to. But the trouble is, I've always said Newcastle probably weren't ready into that stage yet. It wasn't sustainable. It was good for a year, But the trouble is, and you remember, I think I said it on one of the shows you, Pete, it was like United. United used to dip into the Champions League, dip out for 3 years, back in for a year, back out for 2 years. You can't build revenue like that. It's a very hard sell. You look at City, LB, we've never been out the Champions League since we got in it.
Yeah. No, look, can I ask a question, right? Question for the panel, yeah? Question for the chat. Genuine question. Can we not just go back to having no rules like we had for over 100 years? Like, before the rules came in what, 2013, 14, whatever, like we had no rules throughout the 2000s, yeah, early 2010s, all the 90s, we had no financial rules. Why can't we go back to that? What's the problem?
I'm just trying to look back over history and think that during that time, did any clubs go bust? And I can't think of any that did. Maybe there was one or two in the lower leagues potentially, but
I think it was the Leeds one. It was the Leeds one that scared them all.
Yeah, I think that there was Leeds. So there was Portsmouth as well. I think if I could be wrong.
Portsmouth. Yeah, but the problem with Portsmouth is, yeah, they were. I think the owner that wasn't a spending issue. I don't believe. I think that was just an owner issue. Leeds. Yeah. My understanding on the Leeds thing, which I might be incorrect, but my understanding for them was the only way that they basically gambled, not that they get in the Champions League, but that they'd win the Champions League.
Yeah.
Like that's just ridiculous. Like,
yeah. No, but there's an even better one that was recently. Everton spent 550 million to finish in the top 6. They finished 17th.
The point I was trying to make was, if you look at then and you look at now, there isn't really much difference in clubs going bust. You could probably argue maybe, like, obviously you've got the likes of Reading now that are in dire straits, and a couple of other clubs as well. But these financial fair play rules really haven't benefited anything other than preventing the growth of English football.
But that LB asked the question, why can't we go back to it? And the reason why we can't go back to it is because that would allow other teams to have moments where they're up there. Any team could have the opportunity to be taken over and be up there. The problem is the teams at the top, that red cartel that we keep hearing all the time, don't want it. And if you look back through football history, there is a difference. There are clubs that are up there for a few years and then they drop away, and a new challenger emerges and they drop away, and they're up there and they drop away. And that was what football was all about. And that's why it was so exciting, because you had teams that came from nowhere and all of a sudden were challenging. Just like Newcastle United, we came in to the Premier League in the second season. We finished third in our first season. Then we challenged for the title, and it was exciting because you had a new challenger that nobody expected to be there, and then all of a sudden they were. And we had Blackburn Rovers that went on and won the Premier League, but they had a couple of years where they were there fighting. What these rules are in place now is to stop it. It's to continually have the same teams at the top. They don't want a Newcastle challenging. They don't want a Villa. They don't want a West Ham. And West Ham have been in Europe longer than us and Villa have. Yeah. They don't want West Ham in the Champions League. They don't want it. They don't want any of those teams in the Champions League. Brighton, you can throw in there as well. They don't want it. They want the same teams at the top because it generates the money for those teams to continually earn year in, year out. And that red cartel have held that position for so long, they don't want to let it slip. They don't want to do what some of those teams did in the 80s and 70s and 60s, where they had a rise and a drop, and allow a new challenger to emerge. Changing the rules, deregulating the rules, as your owner talked about, ultimately allows Villa, a Newcastle, a West Ham, a Brighton to push and challenge and have a new challenger that's going to open up the league to be more entertaining. Ultimately, that's the problem. That is the problem, and it will continue to be the problem until something changes.
No, you're totally right. That's what I was trying to say before the red cartel took over my Wi-Fi. It's completely lost any sense of excitement. You know, you've got these championship clubs and they're thinking, oh yeah, you know, we're getting into the Premier League, but then it's like at the back of their minds they must be thinking, oh, back down to the Championship next season, because there's such a gap between the Premier League teams and the Championship teams that there's just no escaping that. You'll get 3 teams come up, but they'll go straight back down again.
Yeah, but
now
then,
you might get the odd 1 or 2 that stay up, but just overall, there's no excitement. You can almost guarantee before you start the season, you know who's going to finish roughly in the top 2 or 3, and everyone else you can kind of roughly work out where, within maybe 5 or 4 spaces where they're going to be.
But that's never changed. That's my argument. It's never changed, really.
It hasn't, but it has to a point. It has to a point because, if you look over the years, you've had teams like, when Swansea came up and, Swansea stayed up in the Premier League for quite a while. And then you had Sheffield United, back in the Premier League days where they came up and stayed up for a while. And you can almost guarantee now, whereas before it was like there was a bit of excitement because you could say, oh, I don't know who's going to go down this year. But now you can almost work it out.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think the relegation side has become an issue. But generally with the top 4, the top 6, it's generally been the same since City have got in. It's like now I can tell you the top 3 for this season. It's been the top 3, City and Liverpool, then Arsenal have joined.
But if Newcastle and Aston Villa were allowed to spend, maybe that top 3 would be different. That's the point.
Yeah. So in the next 6 years, you'd probably see us and Villa be in that a little bit more. And that's the change that we're talking about, that you saw in sort of like the 80s, 70s, 60s, even in the 90s to a point, is where you've seen those other challenges.
Still back to,
challenge.
Convince those players to go to these clubs. I know you were joking earlier, Mbappe ain't rocking up to Luton if he's getting an offer from Real Madrid or Arsenal. I know there's that dream, but they're not going to do.
It goes back to the point there, Martin. It's like with the ownership coming in now into a PSR world. If a player can see that there's a pathway for that club, knowing that they're going to invest to go to the top, then they will go to that club. They will, because the money will be there, the ambition will be there, and they'll be able to go. But how do we get Sven Botman? How do we get Bruno Guimaraes? How do we get Alexander Isak? Not because we were selling them, we're going to finish 8th.
No, I agree.
A decent push.
You'll get
we sold them the dream that we're ambitious enough to be there, and we have the ambition to be there. And Villa, the same. Moussa Diaby, although he's gone, you got some of the other players that they've brought in, top quality players. They've got the ambition to be there, but PSR...
but that's my point. Rehab has gone into Villa, shit hit the fan, and he was out the door and off to Saudi. 12 months he was there.
Yeah, but why? Because he can't see the vision that he's gonna be.
He's gone to Saudi. It's just emerged. He's emerged when he was off to Saudi at that age. That's what
listen.
There is money.
Let me just go, because some of these super chats have been sat here a while. Let me go through these super chats, and I want to get Pete's take before we end up closing up the show. I want to get Pete's take on the 115 situation, what he thinks of that. Big up to Ali Al-Sari coming in with a 13 months membership on the channel. That's a crazy number, man. So W's in the chat for Ali. Big up. Always been supporting me on YouTube, man. I appreciate the support. Big up to Tinsay, says, was 2015 the last time Sheikh put his own money into the club? I don't know the last time he put his own money into the club. Oh, well, Martin's nodding his head. Okay, there you go. According to Martin, it was 2015. Big up to Steve, says, I love Khaldoon. Yeah, man. Listen, Khaldoon knows what he's talking about, man. You know what I mean? And the fact that he's saying we need to deregulate the league to let teams spend money when we're top of the table, I think that says a lot. Big up to LB, says City want a backup striker in January, apparently. We'll see on that. If they wanted one, why didn't they? I don't know why they didn't sign one in the summer, but let's see what happens in January. Big up to Reese, says, only just joined the stream, had a 14-hour shift. You know, lad. Jeez, is that still legal? It's 24, mate. You know what I mean? Yeah. Down in mines or something. Big up, man. Big up, bro. You need to get some rest in it. Go to bed. Stop listening to us, man. Big up to Luke, says, big up the panel, as always. Great debate. Big up Luke as well. I want to get your take on the 115 thing, Pete. Obviously, we discussed it in the past, me and you. I've been on your channel. We've discussed 115 and FFP. But, like, what's your take on 115? Newcastle fans looking at this, like, look at what in addition either way to sort of like benefit you or guide your club, and like what's the sort of talk in Newcastle, a Newcastle Football Club, around this 115 and like, potential impacts on Newcastle, if any at all?
Well, for everyone that watches our channel, and lots of Newcastle fans I speak to at games or just in general on social media, we're 100% behind Man City on this. We want Newcastle. We want, as Newcastle United fans, we want the Premier League like in the drain. We want them down the toilet. Not just because of how they treated us with our 18-month pursuit of the takeover, not just because of the associated party rules, not just because of the PSR rules. It's just because the Premier League at the moment, in the way it's regulating itself, is not good enough. And for us, we want change. And correct me if I'm wrong, and I can't remember who said this, but a lot of the charges are a lot of the same charges.
Yeah.
So actually, when it's broken down, there's not that many, or certainly 115 is way expanded out in terms of what it actually is.
115 is now growing. Apparently, according to Stephen Borson, we're at 129 now.
Yeah. Apparently, the 115 was a misquote from a journalist, and then everyone just went with it. It's actually 129. No, but that is right, Pete. Yeah. So basically, there's like 3 to 5 main charges, but because we breach it every year for like a decade, it's now mounted up. It's kind of like, imagine driving your car, and every day you didn't see it, but every day you see that there's a speed camera, and every day you get clocked by the speed camera, and then after a month, the council says you've broken the speed limit 115 times on this camera, but you've done it every day. Now, the council, the people would probably go, I would imagine that they probably go, right, we're not going to do you for 115 times, you know what I mean? Because that's a little hard, but we'll clump it together as well. It's kind of like that. So, yeah, the 115 thing is, it is like over 115 charges, but it is just like a couple of different charges that we breached over a decade.
But I said to you, LB, when that stuff came out with Leicester City, and the Premier League almost like sort of lost their fight against them. For me, that, and I'm not a Man City fan, but I was like, I'm finding my confidence growing that you guys.
I did.
And when that came out, it was a bit like, at this point now, the Premier League are on the ropes big time, and they look like they're struggling big time. I mean, it just for me, I'm not gonna lie, it all just feels like, and all the other teams, you Spurs, your Arsenal, your Man United, they're hanging their hopes on this 115 coming through. They need it to come.
Why are Spurs hanging up the ropes? Their trophy cabinet's dusty as anything.
Well, they're just desperate to see Man City fail and to see them forward. But for me, I'm the opposite. I want to see them put the Premier League in the dirt, because the Premier League deserve it for how they've ran their league over multiple years now. We were going decades in terms of how they've run their league, and the fact that they've allowed certain teams to regulate it for them is an absolute joke. So I'm growing in confidence for you guys. At this moment in time, I see you guys winning it, and I hope you do. And I hope it brings massive change. I hope it brings the Premier League crumbling down so it gets rebuilt in a better way. That's the way I see it at the moment.
Well, Pete, right, here's a very reasonable and a very possible scenario, right? Leicester have already just beaten the Premier League. Premier League, very, very embarrassed, right? That's a very, very embarrassing situation. And by the way, I'm just going to say this right now. I thought the Premier League statement was out of order about what they said about the court. Yeah, they did that statement and said, we are disappointed and shocked to hear the independent panel has sided in favour of Leicester. No. That is bang out of order from the Premier League saying that. You put the independent people in, to make the decision. You just go with whatever they say. If Leicester are guilty, you don't comment on it. You just say, today's judgment, Leicester are guilty. You don't say great news, Leicester are guilty. You don't say bad, you don't do nothing. But for them to come out and say they are shocked and disappointed with the independent panel. So what's the point of having an independent panel? You calling the independent panel wrong? I thought that was bang out of order. But they've already lost that case.
Yeah.
Now, the rumour going around from Martin Ziegler is that the associated party transactions that City obviously sued the Premier League in the arbitration, that what he said, direct quote was, he believes that City have had some success in that. So they might not have won everything that City decided to take the Premier League to arbitration on regarding the associated party transactions, which was obviously aimed at Newcastle, but they've had some success. So maybe some of the rules have been changed. If that's happened, that effectively means, that the Premier League have had rules in the rule book which is unlawful in UK law. That, for me, is very embarrassing, right? If City then beat the 115 case, that's 3 huge decisions all gone against the Premier League in what? The space of about 6 months, 7 months? If we get the 115 decision in, say, March, April? Yeah. If that happens, for me, the Premier League, every single person at the Premier League, who is in a position of authority needs to be fired on the spot. You cannot allow these people to keep their job if they've lost 3 huge cases, and on one of them had rules in the rule book which were unlawful. It's ridiculous.
I'm not going to lie. I thought Richard Masters would lose his job once the Newcastle takeover got done, for the way he actively delayed it for 18 months. So for this has to be the nail in his coffin. If you guys win it, he has to be the first one out the door. I want to see a resignation on the same day that announcement comes out. I want to see him gone. I don't want to see a statement. I just want to see that yellow ticker on Sky Sports News, resigned as the leader of the Premier League, whatever his official title is, and then the rest of them need to follow. I am with you 110% on that.
Yeah, Martin. What you reckon about the this? How are you feeling on the 115? Are you with Pete that the case for Leicester, did that give you more confidence?
But you know me, I've always been confident with it.
Yeah, you have, to be fair.
I don't think they'll find anything. I think, listen, went to CAS and they couldn't find out. The Premier League, I've not heard where they've got any new evidence, and I'm just fine with it. I'm not bothered even about Masters. Because, listen, I know what Masters is. He's a puppet. That's it. People need to, the Premier League is a private members club. That's why Pep didn't talk about Masters. He talks about the 9 Premier League clubs. Make no mistake about it. This is nothing to do with Masters. This is clubs, other chief execs of football clubs that hate Manchester City Football Club because they're jealous and they can't beat us. And then this is where I don't buy into the Richard Masters, because at the end of the day, he's like I've always said, private golf club. You have a chairman, you have a captain, this is all they are. It's the members, really, and the members of the clubs.
And the face don't fit.
At the end of the day, these rest of these clubs can stick it right up the rear end. So I didn't have any. People say I'm being harsh. No, do you think Everton felt sorry for us when they were trying to do us years ago? This is what I mean. But why have I got to start feeling sorry for other clubs when they were trying to destroy us 5 years ago? What is this?
Yeah, no, I know what you're on about, because I get a little frustrated, because I always say, like, I wish these fans and wish these clubs would have woke up a decade ago when we were banging on about it. But the thing is, Martin, they were all in a non-patronising way. They were all conned because they got lied to. Yeah, these puppets on Sky Sports News who said, "Oh, this FFP is great. We need to stop Man City." Blah 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 blah. They were all lied to, and they're doing it again now. Did you not see it when City took the Premier League to court about the associated party transactions, and everyone ran the story saying the Premier League would be destroyed if City won this case? The rules were only brought in a few years ago. So what was everything that was won? So we were basically saying Man United's 20 titles that they won under Fergie, we all saying they were fake because the rules weren't in place then.
You got to remember, LB, who votes on these rules?
Yeah, the clubs.
Right.
Can I just jump?
Why are we doing this Masters shit? Own the clubs. The clubs are the enemies. They're the ones who came after us. They voted for this to wreck us.
Can I just jump in as well?
Yeah,
Martin is absolutely right, and I'll tell you now why. The reason why, because the Premier League, especially with this 115 case, who do you think's funding it? Who do you think's funding the lawyers and the case? It's the other Premier League clubs.
Yeah, it's the Premier League clubs.
It's being funded by the Premier League clubs. So the Premier League clubs aren't going to want us to succeed because they're the ones that are funding for the Premier League to go against us.
Well, exactly. Yeah, it's paid from the Premier League pool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Money that's in there. But yeah, now go back to Martin's point. Listen, I understand what you're saying. My thing is, I don't have necessarily, I don't feel sorry for the clubs or like the owners. I feel sorry for the fans because the fans have been lied to, Martin. That's my point on that. I agree with what you're saying because you're 100%. And what I do still get frustrated with those fans because I was like, I wish you would have opened your eyes and not been a sheep a decade ago when we was telling you that these rules are, but you was just listening to all the mainstream media saying you need to do this because City are going to destroy the league, which we're now doing anyway with the rules. So that's not really worked, has it? But the thing is, there was a mass media campaign against Manchester City, yeah, and it took very, very, very few people, yeah, who didn't support City a decade ago would have not been in favour of PSR and FFP. Because they were bombarded with it, Martin, from every single pundit. All the news people will say, we need FFP because City going to ruin it. So I understand to it. So I feel sorry for them because they were lied to. And now they're all starting to wake up and see the real thing that we've been seeing for a decade. And by the way, again, I'm not saying we've seen it for a decade because we're smarter than everyone else. We've seen it a decade ago because it was our club that was being impacted. And we were like, they're clearly lying. And now a decade later, everyone's going, this isn't right. FFP is a load of nonsense and it's not helping teams grow. So now they've seen it because they lie. And now, you know they were lying as well because now they've changed the rhetoric. Because a decade ago, they were saying we need these rules to protect clubs, Well, that's all changed now. They're not saying any of that. They're not saying any of that.
I get what you're saying. You were very kind enough to give up your own time. And you went into that Leicester stream.
Yeah.
Yeah. You were ever so good. You got cooked in the comments.
Yeah.
By some Leicester fans.
Yeah, no.
That's what my point is, LB. They don't care.
No, well, some fans don't.
So
Martin. Some fans are weird, yeah, and they want to love up to the cartel clubs. They want to be mates with them. Oh, we want to be friends with United and Arsenal and Liverpool because they're a bunch of weirdos, mate. Yeah. Some other people actually don't give a fuck. They just care about their own.
You know what it
team.
is with me,
the rules and go. Them rules
I'll be straight with you. I'll be totally straight with you. I'm not saying you, but I know there are City fans who are dying for adulation. They're dying to be accepted. They're dying to be told they're the greatest team ever and blah, blah. I couldn't give a tom shit whether a Chelsea fan thinks my team's great. I know my team's great. That's what I don't need an Everton fan to be telling me that, oh, and you got a great football team. I don't care what you think, mate. With all due respect, that's my thing. I think some of us were after this. We want to be told we're the greatest. The players have talked about it. We want to be told, why aren't we getting these big awards? Why aren't we getting this, that, and the other? I don't care for me. I am like Pep Guardiola now. I'm sorry, I'm like Pep. Tough shit. You can't slag us off for 10 years and come back and ask for forgiveness. Don't work that way. I know it sounds really harsh, but I'm not. You shat on my football club and my fan base for too damn long now. Too damn long that I'm going to turn around and go, yeah. Don't care. I don't care what they think anymore. Sorry, you reap what you sow. You get put out of business. I know it's going to sound harsh. You put out of business.
No, I agree when it comes to the clubs and the board, but the fans
a lot of the fans were.
Yeah, but
I got spat at Leicester City by a fan because I was a City fan. Spat at.
Yeah, well, that's just obviously horrible, isn't it?
This is how some of the fans are.
Yeah, but bro, this is the thing. Yeah, I get what you're saying, and I know you're frustrated about it, and I understand. But some fans are just never going to be. Some fans, Martin, are never going to see the truth. Yeah, and you're going to get them. Yeah, and you're going to get those fans, Martin. They're never going to change. They're always going to be there. The point is, more fans now are actually waking up and seeing the truth, and that's a good thing.
This is the thing, like a lot of these fans, particularly the ones that you'll see at games and stuff, they don't see what we see on social media. They don't interact with the people that we interact with. They don't follow those people that are in the know in terms of the journalists that write these pieces. They don't see these things over a period of time. You've lived it. You've been in it. as a Man City fan. You've seen the corruption that's taken place to try and stop you guys, just like us. We're in the same boat, but some of the fans are not like that, and they look up to these other teams because they're historical and they see them as the great teams, and they can't have a bad word said about them because they were winning titles in the 90s and in the 80s and in the 70s, and we weren't in that position. And I'm like you, Martin. Like, for me, with all this takeover and PIF and all the rest of it, we were getting stick. I don't care. I've seen my team get relegated. I've seen my team in the Championship. I've seen my team languish, and I've prayed for 40 points per season just so we stay in the Premier League. I don't care the fact that we have our owners now. I want to see us fighting in the top half of the table, at the top end of the league, and eventually, I hope that it's the case that we're competing with you in the years to come. And you shouldn't feel bad about that at all. As a fan, but you aren't, as you said right at the top of the show, Martin, you're not going to please everybody.
And I get that. And just for me, being harsh, you reap what you sow. I'm sorry, I know that sounds so harsh, but
bro, that is not an incorrect feeling. If that's what you
just
feel,
the way I am with it.
If that's how you feel,
mate.
No one can sit here and say that you're wrong to feel that way. I'm a bit more like, and I still get frustrated with these fans because I'm like, you've woken up, but why didn't you wake up a decade ago? But I'm a little bit more like, okay, like I'll allow it because you've woken up. If you don't want to do that because you're just thinking like whatever, you got your own reasons, that's completely fine. Like, no one can tell you how to feel, bro. Like,
no, I mean it's like I went to a game last season, and I'm like, I've got no disrespect. I've got lower league clubs calling me a cheating Arab. You know what? I'm like, what? Who are you? Who the hell are you?
Thing is, you
know what I mean, Pete? You're like, I'm with my 14-year-old son. What are you calling me that for?
Look at it from the other side, Martin. Right? We got absolutely blasted by United fans for years, calling us oil club and this, that, and the other. As soon as there was any kind of talk that United were going to get taken over by some kind of oil baron Saudi bloke, they were all twerking for it.
Changing the profiles to Qatari flag.
Exactly, yeah. Oh, no.
They were loving it.
But their money was fine. Their money was absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Like, do one. Do you know what I mean?
No, 100%. That's facts, Bevel. Facts. Let's do these super chats, then we'll.
That's all it is.
No, but bro, I'm not sitting here like, and I don't sit here like,
human than me.
I still get frustrated. It still annoys me that it took a decade to wake up.
I just want to add before you go to super chats, LB. Just really sorry.
Yeah.
The few people that have mentioned sort of like True, Geordie, and other Newcastle fans that were against Man City and all the rest of it until we got taken over, but they've now seen the reality is they've seen the light. They've seen the light in terms of how fans can change just like that, and a lot of Newcastle fans were like some of these other fans, the Leicester, the Forest, and all the rest of it that hate Man City. Newcastle fans were like that before because we were down there, but now we can see how corrupted the Premier League was through our own takeover. We know what it's actually like.
But that's probably why Martin's frustrated, because it's like, you know, I mean, as you very, you know, fair play to Pete for saying that, yeah. But obviously, you got Newcastle fans who didn't see what City fans were going through because they were poisoned through the media of this country, yeah. And now actually they've seen it because they've had to see it because it's affected their club, and they've gone, oh, hang on a minute, maybe City were right all along.
Yeah.
But that's obviously Martin's fight.
That's what's happening.
Yeah. Let me go through some of these super chats, man. Guys, make sure you are smashing up the likes as well, guys. Come on, these likes are really low.
I got a free 20 quid out of it. Someone threw a £20 note at me at the King Power. Oh, winner. I love a bit of that.
Take that.
Happy
Big up to Harambot says, when you want to find someone guilty, it just smells of corruption and looking to keep a status quo rather than actually looking for justice. That's facts. Great comment, that. Because it does feel, yeah, that this is a witch hunt. This doesn't feel to me that that this is the Premier League seeking justice. It seems like they've got a bee in their bonnet. Yeah, so did UEFA. And they're just attacking City, which is one of the reasons City allege that they're not cooperating, because they don't feel like it's a fair process. They don't think it's a fair process. They feel that it's a one-sided process. Everything that we do gets leaked. yeah, which is confirmed by Cass. Cass put it in a document. So for the people in the chat who are not City fans who think this is just a conspiracy, it's not. It's in the Cass document. UEFA leaked stuff to the press, and Cass said in their own words, this is very concerning, and I've referred it to like some superior UEFA department to investigate. That happened. City are not wanting to cooperate because everything gets leaked to the newspapers, and they're like,
Yeah,
we don't. So City just waited.
Butterfly was the exact quote they used on it, I believe.
Yeah.
Some conspiracy they used said it was.
So City waited till they got to Cass. They give everything. They give pretty much Cass everything they wanted, and then away we go. Big up to Steve as well. Says LB, could you please, for the sake of argument, make the case for the other clubs against City? City till I die, but this convo is so one-sided. Well, I guess that listen for this, the case for the other depends what means you by other teams. If you're talking about like the red 3 teams, yeah, the reason is because they don't want to win, right? So they just want to be in a Champions League. And if you have these restrictions, that would allow them not to really spend too much money, but keep getting that Champions League revenue in, right? They can't really do that now because I don't know how much you've watched, but the rules came in too late. If they would have brought these rules in like 2006, no one would have ever broken into the top 4, and the top 4 teams would have just got those Champions League monies every single season. Yeah. As for the other clubs, I personally see absolutely no benefit, yeah, for the likes of Wolves to support FFP. Why would that help them? Because if it don't help no one, because Martin, a couple of lads were speaking before about if the owner decides that he wants to sell, it'd be a lot easier to sell the club if there was no FFP rules. Because then an owner could come in and say, I can actually buy the club, and like Pete was talking about the vision, you can actually go and spend the money. So the only teams that this benefits are the teams at the top, and at the time that was like say United, they're not at the top anymore. So the rules that City are the ones that benefit from these rules. If anything, we should be wanting these rules to be tightened, even more stricter, because that helps us. Because no one else that can compete. We dominate this league for the rest of time because we're now the team at the top.
The problem is as well, LB, is the rules were brought in place to stop us from getting there. So, like you've mentioned on streams before, we've known about these rules and how to not necessarily get around them, but we know how to play ball because those rules were implemented to stop us. The other teams didn't really need to know about those rules as such because it didn't really kind of benefit them in any way at the time. Now they're in a position where we're so clued up on the rules and everyone else is playing catch up.
Yeah, no, 100%. I've said that so many times, Bevo, as you know, and if you believe that the FFP rules were brought in to stop City, which I believe they were, right? City would have looked at them rules and gone, these rules are to stop us. How do we get around these rules? Right. First of all, if you sell academy players, that's straight profit. So how do we maximize that? What we need to do is make one of the greatest academies in the world. So what did they do? They went out and built the biggest academy and the best academy in world football. And now, 10 years later, look what it's doing. Yeah, we're selling every player for 20 million quid, right? They went and did this because the rules were there for them. And Chelsea have obviously come in and they've sort of like gone. They needed a quicker solution. So instead of selling academy players, they started selling hotels. But that's the situation, man. Big up to Steve. It's a good question. Personally, Steve, to answer it in short, I don't see why anyone really would be in favour of this, unless maybe Spurs. Spurs might be in favour because they ain't going to spend the money that Newcastle are going to spend. They ain't going to spend the money that Villa are going to spend. So Spurs, maybe West Ham. Teams that are decent but ain't got the money or ain't got the desire to get top 4. They're the only teams really that I see against it. Like Wolves ain't going to get in top 4 anytime soon. Why would they be against it?
What you mentioned just then, LB, as well about selling hotels and things. The thing that I find like quite concerning about it all is that Chelsea were allowed to sell their club to the sister company. So essentially, it's still owned by Chelsea, just under a different name.
Yeah, I think they sold. There's rumours going around. I don't know if this is true, but that they sold the women's football.
Yeah, they have. They've sold the women's football team as well.
Yeah,
but
the thing
again,
is,
they will have sold it to a sister company, so it's still Chelsea's. Now, the way that I see it is, you want to talk about bending the rules. That's as bent as you can get.
Well,
you're basically selling it to yourself.
But I don't have a problem with it, Beryl.
No, of course.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I don't have a problem with it because ultimately, and the first question that I had on Martin was this case with City in the Premier League inevitable? And it was inevitable because they brought in rules that were ridiculous, and the rules weren't watertight. Hence why Chelsea have been able to get away with it by selling hotels and the women's football.
I just find it mad you can't bring a player from a sister club. Like, we couldn't bring a player from Girona, but we can sell our stadium and everything else that we want to sell to a sister club, and it's still ours.
Nah,
but you can't bring a player from another club. Like,
that's because they rushed the rules, and obviously, you
got to look. The stadium was a massive plus, though. Why Sheikh Mansour came in? He's already said that he was looking at Everton, he was looking at Villa, and he was looking at Newcastle at the time. But the trouble is, what you're seeing right now with the hotel and Co-op Live and the fan zone and everything else, that was the whole vision of what he was looking for. Because he could come in and he could go, right, I've got a stadium I can expand with, do a deal with the council, bang, I'm in here. He could stamp his authority all over the damn shop.
It's not just that as well, Martin. You name any other owner of a Premier League club that has improved the surrounding area by building houses, affordable homes. Yeah. You name.
You never heard about that.
Premier League. Any other one.
Never heard about that because it doesn't suit the narrative.
Yeah.
Because sadly, and I've said this 1,000 times and people won't like it, City said it in the statement, it is becoming an American versus Gulf investment in this league because Gulf investment want to win. American investments want to make the money.
Yeah. It's a reality.
And that is where we're at. And right now, no one's seeing it, but there's a big fight going on in a minute because what they're trying to do is make the Premier League a Super League. Take the games abroad. Let's go. Make the money. Silly ticker. This is what they're trying to go at.
Won't get off the ground, mate. It won't get off.
Well, Pete, I hope it will because the likes of Sky will back it if they get the TV rights. Guarantee you. If the Premier, Pete.
Yeah, I know we do, Steve, by the way. Minority, though.
Pete, yeah. If the Premier League go to Sky and say, listen, we're going to do this. It's happening. If you support it, we'll give you all the TV rights for the 39th game because that's what it's going to be about, the 39th game. The Premier League will back it. The Premier League will back the Sky will back it. Guarantee you, the likes of Gary Neville.
I hear it, and that's why I'm just disgusted by it because actually, when you say it like that, I can actually see it happening.
Bro, you might not know this, Pete. Yeah. But Pep Guardiola, when he spoke about it, he says, in this world, there are no friends or enemies, only interests. And it's fucking that is the when he said that, my mind was blown. And my life perspective on everything has changed, bro. Because whenever I can see anyone say anything, I'm like, why are you saying that? What's your interest in your reason? And I see it all the time. And I guarantee it's the same with the Super League. When the Super League came in and Sky and BBC did all these, this is horrendous Super League. And I'm not saying it's good or bad, but they went to town 24 hours a day. They was going Super League bad. Why was they saying that? Because the Super League wanted to make every game free streamed online. So Sky wouldn't have made any money on the TV games. TNT Sports wouldn't have made any money on the games because they wouldn't have had the TV rights. It would have been free online. It was
like
interest
WWE now. WWE now is leaving USA and all this, and they're going to Netflix. They just got a £5.5 billion deal out of Netflix. That's what they want for the Premier League in the end. I mean, I got told by someone who works within football. I will not name them, but they work with football. They go to the FA meetings, they go to all these meetings that implement because they work at a club. I will not name them. But he said this is what they're like. They're all in their own interest when they go in these meetings. You see them in corners discussing and they're looking after their own. With all due respect, Everton aren't going down there thinking about Liverpool and United are going down there thinking about... No one gives us... They're looking after... Hang on, does this rule suit us? What do we get out of this if we vote this way?
Facts.
Yeah. And this is what is sad now. And this is what they've all done. They've all voted in, right? How can we stop City? Let's go this. How can we then stop Newcastle? Let's do this. And this is why it's never changing, because we're all going, well, what can these rules change? The problem right now is the clubs are voting on their own interests. So you are never changing anything. You are never changing any rules, because why would United and Liverpool and Arsenal vote to kill themselves?
Yeah.
The other way of looking at it as well is they're looking to take games over to the US But the thing is, for these fans, you know, I mean, I put myself partly in that bracket as well. You know, I do try to get to games when I can. But for the fans that aren't match going, you know, we have in the UK that 3 p.m. blackout on a Saturday. US don't have that.
Yeah.
US can watch pretty much any Premier League game that they want to watch. You know, and now they're planning on taking it abroad as well.
Yeah.
At what point is that fair? But you know, we you know, if there was a league over in the US, I'm sure, and it was flipped and it was vice versa, and you know, the MLS was as popular as the Premier League. They'd all be the same. They'll be like, well, hang on a minute, why are you taking it over to the UK when we can't even watch games on 3 p.m. on a Saturday?
Bro, this is the thing, bro. But I guarantee when this happens, because it will happen, I guarantee the news companies, yeah, they'll do this thing when they go, oh, this is not good, is it? No, this isn't good. But they will guarantee you, yeah, Sky Sports, TNC, all these, they will not go as like ham as they did with the Super League. Because with the Super League, they lost control. They had no games, which was going to hurt them financially. With this, the Premier League will go, we'll give you the TV rights, but you can't go too ham on it. I guarantee you, and Gary Neville, people like that, they'll come out there and be like, yeah, this isn't that good, is it? But the way he reacted, yeah, for the Super League compared to what they do, yeah, when this new rule comes in, when they take it to the States, it's been bad. And final point on this, because we do need to wrap up, yeah, because the boys have been on for an hour and 50 minutes, is I say this, if you're in America, yeah, and we do take it over America, fucking go to the game, mate. Don't not go to the game, yeah? If you got once in a lifetime opportunity to go watch City, go watch Newcastle, whatever, don't just go because UK fans are... No, if you get the opportunity to go, you go. It's not your problem, yeah? It's not your fight. And, you know, get me, I just let you know that, like, if you go to a game and send me a picture, I'm at the game, I'm not going to be like, you dickhead, you shouldn't have gone out, you know what I mean? You should go. It's not your fight to have. It's you know, that's not the way it is.
I was just going to say, send Arsenal, Liverpool, United, send them all to New York City FC Stadium. We'll profit from it. No worries.
Big up to Reese, man. Says the post office scandal ain't too far off the Premier League scandal. Yeah, bro, that post office scandal's a madness as well. You know what I mean? Fuck those guys, yeah. Because people died on that. Yeah, little scumbags knew everything that was going on as well. Yeah, that was a madness. Big up Mr. Bates, innit? Have any of you guys seen that? I've been talking to you.
I have, yeah. The original, the original.
I haven't seen it.
Where it originally came from is like 5 minutes down the road to me.
Yeah, that's booked. All right, Pete, you need to check it out. Yeah, Mr. Bates versus the Post Office, ITV. Yeah,
get on it, man.
Don't drink alcohol when you're doing it, though, mate, because you'll start throwing hands, bro. I started throwing hands. You know what I mean?
Bloody hell, you're always throwing hands at the minute.
What's that meant to mean?
I need to watch that.
I'll tell you Friday.
I'll watch it tomorrow, man.
Yeah, watch it, Pete. It's actually mad, yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy, little scumbags. Right, anyway, we're going to wrap it up. Big up to everyone for joining. We had 1,700 people locked in tonight, man. So big up to everyone that's tuned in. Hopefully enjoyed the conversation. Interesting to get Pete's perspective as well from a Newcastle point of view. Big up, Pete, on the loaded match. Who Newcastle got this weekend?
Wolves away on Sunday. So, yeah, I'm not going to lie. I'm hoping for those 3 points. We've not had a bad start, you know, considering we ain't played too well. But look, big up to you guys. Thanks for having me on, LB. The chat's been top stuff as well. It's been a great chat. Yeah,
big up, man. Big up. Bevel, City Bevel TV. Obviously comes on my channel as well a lot. Appreciate your time, bro. Yeah, what you saying?
Yeah, had a bit of a break. For anybody that doesn't know, I put something out on my my Twitter account recently. Looking to get back into it soon. We make moves, and again, thanks for having me on. I've got a show tomorrow night that I'm doing over on Not in My Lifetime podcast, and then we'll go from there and see where we get to.
Big up, bro. Martin.
Making friends all over the place, aren't I, at the minute?
Are you? Fucking hell, I think you're making enemies the way you're going on.
Why? Thought football was about opinions. I'm banned from my opinion now.
Now, what are you saying, Matt? You're coming on the Friday show as well, me and Tony, yeah?
You caused it. All these bleeding Grealish streams you're doing.
What?
I'm not blaming you.
Bro. Go on, what have we got coming up?
Thursday night chat tomorrow. Musiala chat. I'm going to give a little bit more info that I got on that today. Not breaking on here. You don't deserve it. Musiala update. Haaland update. Foden update. Talk Brentford. I'm going to talk about internationals and how they're crap.
Fair point.
I'm going to have a rant on internationals tomorrow night.
Don't get excited on that Musiala updates, man. Because if you don't get him, he's gonna be gutted.
I'll be gutted, mate. Yeah.
Down today, he went with Musiala and frigging Verts. Double down on it today.
I'm telling you, yeah, these Bayern fans are getting nervy, man. They're putting on a front, pretending that they're chill, yeah. But the club is basically every news source is saying Bayern are doing everything possible to keep Musiala, bro. They're scared.
You went A to Z. You can't just have Musiala's coming to say you've got Musiala and Verts. You've got
beat 115. Let's get them both. Let's have a little party over at the Etihad. No worries,
bro.
Let's go back. Easy money, free money, easy money. And you know me, I will bet every pound I got.
Right, lads. All three of these guys' channels is in the description. Make sure you guys are subscribed.
Always willing to come on, mate.
Yeah, follow me. I follow you on X. You follow me back, man.
I'll have a look.
Back, mate.
All right, what do you?
Hey, Pete, I'm still
able to contact you, Martin.
Hang on. Is it under the loaded mag one?
No, on my account here, it's there.
What?
Dave's 2010.
See what I mean? Pete at Dave. What? Bloody hell. How do I get Dave from Pete?
Martin's pretending to be a boomer now, chat, and not know how to use the internet. You know what I mean? Right, we're going to wrap up, man, because we'll be here all night. Big up to everyone. Smash a like, subscribe if you're watching on replay. Give us your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Big up Martin, Pete, and Bevo, and we'll catch you in the next one. See you later.